All right, so let's dive into this world of blockchain real estate. You specifically asked about BLAQClouds Property Group, and well, they just dropped a big press release announcing their launch. So we're gonna dive right in. Get ready to learn how this company plans to, maybe even shake up the real estate game
Yeah.
using the power of blockchain.
What I find fascinating here is, BlackClouds isn't just about buying and selling property like traditionally. Their big launch is set for December 19th, 2024, with a new website, www.bpgec.io. And it focuses on, actually turning real-world buildings
Hmm.
into these digital assets on the blockchain.
Okay, so help me unpack this a little bit. They're talking about turning buildings into like tokens, right? So how does that really work?
Imagine, if you will, owning a sliver of a skyscraper or, even a luxury hotel, something that's previously been completely out of reach for, most individual investors. BlackClouds is aiming to make this a reality through this, kind of fractional ownership idea.
So instead of needing like millions of dollars to buy a whole building, you could own a tiny piece of it. That's a pretty cool concept
It is. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities
for investors.
of all sizes. And BlackClouds is focusing on a few key areas to really try to make this happen.
Well, they keep hitting hard on this idea of tokenization, right? Which I get it. I mean, it's turning real estate into these digital tokens. It sounds a lot like trading stocks. But instead of companies, you're buying and selling pieces of property.
Precisely. And they're combining that
Okay.
with this fractional ownership. So
Yeah.
you're breaking down those expensive properties
Yeah.
to, smaller, more affordable pieces, which makes investing in real estate much more accessible.
They also mention these advanced management tools, right? Which kind of makes me think of things like, rent collection and property maintenance all being like streamlined to the blockchain. Wouldn't that make things
Right.
much more efficient and transparent?
Absolutely. Think about all the paperwork. You're cutting down on that, reducing the potential for errors, creates a clear record of everything that happens. And, BlackClouds really emphasizes that they're building a user-friendly platform, so you don't have to be, some kind of tech genius to participate in this.
That's a good point, because they need to make it easy for everyone to get on board if they really want this to,
Yeah.
to really take off. And they've chosen to use the ZUS blockchain, which is known for, its speed, its scalability, and its low transaction costs.
That's a really interesting choice, actually. It suggests that.
Sure.
They're focusing on the practical applications here,
Yeah.
not just jumping on the blockchain bandwagon for the hype.
I see. So they're really thinking about how to make this work in the real world. And then there's this whole idea of integrating NFTs. Aren't NFTs usually associated with like digital art and things like that? How do they fit into?
Into real estate. It's actually a very similar concept. Each NFT represents a unique piece of that property. So it acts as kind of like digital deed, ensuring that, you have very clear ownership and tamper-proof transactions. It simplifies the whole process.
So if you own a fraction of a building, you would get an NFT that represents your share. That's a pretty clever way to like manage that ownership.
Yeah, much more secure,
Yeah.
an efficient system then. Our traditional paper deeds, there's this quote in their announcement from BlackClouds CEO, Marjorie Schaefer. I think it really highlights their ambition. She says, BLAQClouds Property Group, Inc. represents a bold step into the future of real estate. We're offering unparalleled accessibility, efficiency, and innovation in the real estate space.
It certainly sounds like they're aiming high, and they've already identified their first commercial property acquisition, but they're keeping the details under wraps for now.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move. It's a good way to build anticipation. It'll be really interesting to see how this all works in practice when they actually reveal that first project.
Yeah. It's exciting to think about, how this could change things, not just for investors, but for the entire real estate landscape.
It really is. What's really fascinating here is that BlackClouds is tapping into this much larger trend of like tokenizing real-world assets. This could totally revolutionize how we think about investing, right? Bringing more liquidity to these traditionally illiquid markets.
Okay, so instead of real estate being this big, slow-moving thing, it could become much more dynamic and accessible.
Exactly. Imagine being able to buy or sell your stake in a property as easily as like trading stocks. This could really open up real estate investment to a whole new audience.
That's a really interesting point. It makes me think about the potential impact on property values if more people can suddenly invest in real estate. Wouldn't that drive up demand and ultimately prices?
It's definitely a possibility. It's a question that a lot of people are asking. Increased demand could lead to higher prices, but Fractional ownership could also make it easier for smaller investors to benefit from even, like, small increases in value.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It could make real estate more accessible, but also potentially more expensive.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance for sure. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. There's also the potential impact on, like, how cities develop. If it becomes easier for people to invest, in real estate, we might see a shift towards more community-driven projects.
That's an interesting thought. Instead of just big developers,
Yeah,
calling all the shots, you could have groups of individuals pooling their resources to invest in their own neighborhoods.
precisely. This could lead to
More diverse.
and innovative development projects, potentially even helping to address issues like affordable housing.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? I mean, there are also potential risks and challenges to consider, right? What about, like, the regulatory landscape? Is the government even ready for this?
That's a very valid concern. I mean, regulation is still catching up with this whole blockchain technology thing. And we definitely need clear legal frameworks in place to protect investors.
Right.
And, prevent fraud. That's an area that needs very careful consideration.
And what about, like, cybersecurity? I mean, we hear all the time about, hacks and data breaches and things. How do we know that these blockchain platforms are truly secure?
Security is always a concern, definitely,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with high-value assets like real estate. But it's important to remember that blockchain technology
It's constantly
evolving, right? And security measures are constantly improving as well.
So there's a lot of potential here, but also, like,
A lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
It's all still
Yeah.
very much in its early stages. Absolutely. I think it's important to approach this new landscape with a healthy dose of, both optimism and skepticism. There are some exciting opportunities here,
yeah.
but also potential pitfalls that we need to be aware of.
That makes sense. So getting back to BLAQClouds, it sounds like they're really trying to push the boundaries of what's possible in real estate.
They're definitely at the forefront of this whole movement, yeah. And whether they ultimately succeed or not, they're part of this larger conversation that's happening, challenging the status quo and forcing us to rethink how we approach real estate.
What do you think this all means for our listener? Who specifically asked about this company?
Well, I think it means that they've identified a company that's not just riding the wave of innovation, but actually actively shaping it.
They're pioneers in a space that has the potential to really disrupt entire industries.
And regardless of how things ultimately play out, it's going to be an exciting journey to watch.
Definitely. So for you listening, this is just the beginning, right? Blockchain technology is rapidly evolving, and its impact on real estate is only just starting to unfold.
But this deep dive has hopefully given you a solid foundation to understand the key concepts, the potential benefits, and the challenges that lie ahead.
And with BLAQClouds set to reveal their first project soon, we'll be keeping a close eye on how they put these ideas into practice.
You'll be fascinated to see what kind of impact they have on the market and whether they can truly live up to their very ambitious vision.
And as this technology continues to evolve, we'll be here to help you navigate this new world of blockchain real estate.
Now, if we zoom out a bit and consider the bigger picture here, this begs a question for you.
It's a bigger picture.
What if this is really about, kind of a fundamental shift in how we think about ownership and investment generally? BLAQClouds is making this. Typically, very illiquid, high barrier to entry asset class, like real estate.
Right.
More accessible, more liquid, more transparent. Could we apply those same principles to other things?
Give me an example.
Okay, think about art. We already see NFTs being used to represent, ownership of digital art, of course. But what about physical art? Can you imagine fractional ownership of, like, a Picasso or a Monet?
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess people already buy shares in things like, racehorses or vineyards. Why not a masterpiece?
Exactly. It could democratize access to these very highly valued assets. And then think about, like, intellectual property. Imagine owning a fraction of the copyright,
Deathlake.
a hit song, or a best-selling book.
This is starting to feel like something out of, like, a science fiction novel.
Perhaps. But it's a future that's becoming increasingly plausible thanks to this blockchain technology.
So what does this all mean for you listening who, wanted to learn about BLAQClouds?
Well, I think it means you've stumbled upon a company that's not just riding the wave of innovation, they're actively helping to create it.
They're pioneers in a space that could
Potentially
be
trust
apart.
industries, right?
Yeah. And whether they ultimately succeed or fail, they're part of this much larger movement That's challenging the status quo and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
That's exciting to think about.
Absolutely. We're living in a time of just such rapid technological advancement, and it's thrilling to consider the opportunities that it unlocks.
So there you have it, your deep dive into the world of blockchain real estate
Mm.
with a special focus on BLAQClouds Property Group.
We hope you enjoyed the journey.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? This technology is still evolving, and the future holds a lot of unknowns.
But one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting ride. So stay curious, and maybe you'll be the one to come up with the next big blockchain innovation.
And if you do, come back and tell us all about it. Until then, thanks for listening, and keep on diving deep.